The restaurant was quiet, not peaceful. Quiet the way a room gets when everyone is pretending not to listen. Nathaniel set the envelope on the white tablecloth like he was feeding a stray. Slow, deliberate, the way a man moves when he wants you to feel small. $10. He leaned back in his chair. That's bus fare. Get yourself home. Clara didn't flinch. She sat across from him with her hands folded in her lap, her coffee untouched, her face perfectly still. 5 years of marriage had taught her how to go quiet, how to become invisible in a room where someone needed all the air. You think this is dignified? Nathaniel continued. His voice dropped lower. A woman sitting in a restaurant on a Tuesday afternoon, waiting for her husband to decide if she's worth keeping. He smiled. You're not. The people at the next table suddenly found their soup very interesting. Clara looked at the envelope. Then she looked at him. She picked up her bag. She stood. Clara. Nathaniel's voice sharpened. I said $10. That's what you're worth to me. Take it. She left the envelope on the table. Keep it, she said quietly. You need it more than I do. She walked out. No tears. No scene. No look back. Nathaniel watched the door close behind her and felt absolutely nothing except relief. He signaled the waiter for another espresso. Back at the penthouse, Arthur was already pouring champagne. Arthur Reeves, Nathaniel's CFO and oldest friend, handed him a glass the moment the elevator doors opened. He'd been watching the tracking alert on the divorce filing for 3 days. He knew before Nathaniel even sat down. It's done. Done. Nathaniel loosened his tie. She signed the separation agreement this morning. My lawyers gave her a reasonable settlement offer, and she turned it down. Arthur raised an eyebrow. She turned down the money? Every cent. Nathaniel dropped onto the couch. Walked right out of Riviera like I'd offered her pocket change. He shook his head. Either she's proud or she's stupid. Probably both. His girlfriend, Victoria, appeared from the bedroom in a silk robe. She draped herself across the armrest and reached for the champagne without asking. She's definitely stupid. Victoria examined her nails. What kind of woman walks away from a settlement? She had nothing when she met you. Nothing before me, nothing after me. Nathaniel smiled. That's poetic. What was she exactly? Victoria asked. Like, what did she actually do all day? Nathaniel thought about it and genuinely realized, that he didn't know. Clara had been quiet, elegant, present in the background of his life without ever pushing to the front. She attended dinners. She smiled at clients. She sent handwritten notes to his business partners on their birthdays. She'd once spent 40 minutes convincing a furious Hong Kong investor to stay in a deal by just talking to the man like he was a human being. But what was her background? Her family? Her history before that charity event 5 years ago where he'd met her? Nathaniel had never asked. She's nobody, he said. She's someone who got very lucky for 5 years. Victoria laughed. To nobody, they drank. The call came at 9:14 the next morning. Nathaniel was in his car heading to the Meridian Tower offices when Brian, his assistant, patched it through. Mr. Holt, it's Patrick Liang's office. Patrick Liang, chairman of Liang Pacific Capital. They had a standing breakfast scheduled, the kind of meeting that didn't get canceled. Hadn't been canceled in 4 years. Put him through. It's actually his assistant, sir. Mr. Liang is unavailable this morning. He's asked to reschedule indefinitely. Nathaniel frowned. Indefinitely? That was the word she used, sir. Did she give a reason? A pause. She said he's reassessing some commitments. Nathaniel ended the call. He stared out the window at the morning traffic. Reassessing. Patrick Liang didn't reassess. Patrick Liang was the most decisive man Nathaniel had ever met. The man had once greenlit a $300 million infrastructure bond from a golf cart. Brian, pull up Patrick's calendar. See if he has anything unusual scheduled. I'll look into it, sir. Nathaniel dismissed the unease before it could settle. Patrick probably had a family issue. A health scare. Something private. These things happened. He ordered another coffee and forgot about it. He wouldn't forget it for long. The first alert came at 11 a.m. Breaking. Vertex Supply Group terminates distribution agreement with Holt Industries. Nathaniel stared at his phone. Vertex Supply had been his primary logistics partner for 6 years. Their contract was ironclad. Termination penalties were catastrophic. Nobody walked away from that without a very good reason or a very expensive lawyer. He called Brian. Give me their general counsel. Right now. The call connected in 4 minutes. The lawyer on the other end was professional. Calm. The kind of calm that has been very deliberately practiced. Mr. Holt, Vertex is invoking the material adverse change clause in Section 14 of our agreement. Unforeseen disruptions to their supply framework have necessitated a restructuring of all major partnerships. That clause has never been triggered in our relationship. It's being triggered now. The formal notice is already filed. I'm sorry, Mr. Holt. The line went dead. Nathaniel was still staring at his phone when the second alert came. Crestmont Private Equity divesting all positions in Holt Industries. Effective immediately. His jaw tightened. Crestmont had $140 million invested across his tech portfolio. That money didn't move without board approval. Board approval took weeks. This had happened in hours. He called their managing director directly. Nathaniel. The voice was flat. I was expecting your call. What the hell is going on, Stephen? We received information about structural vulnerabilities in Holt Industries that our risk committee found disqualifying. We're protecting our LPs. What information? From who? I'm not in a position to share that. The divestment is happening. I suggest you focus on stabilizing your other holdings. Third alert. Holt Industries stock down 11%. Trading volume at 3-year high. Brian appeared in the doorway, his face the color of chalk. Sir, it's not just Crestmont. I'm getting calls from 4 other investors. They're all pulling the same language. Structural vulnerabilities. Like they rehearsed it. Nathaniel's phone rang. Arthur, are you watching the board? I'm watching everything. Nathaniel stood. Get everyone in the conference room. Now, there's more. Arthur's voice was tight. The Singapore acquisition. The logistics terminal deal we've been building for 8 months. Our contact at Meridian just messaged me. The seller has gone dark. Completely unresponsive. That's a $400 million deal. I know what it is, Nathaniel. Silence. It's impossible, Nathaniel said. The word felt hollow even as he said it. This is impossible. These contracts are airtight. These relationships are years deep. I know. Arthur paused, but someone made them move anyway. The conference room was airless by noon. Nathaniel's legal team, his CFO, his head of operations, and 3 analysts had been working since 10. Laptops open, phones burning, coffee growing cold on every surface. Brian stood at the whiteboard, looking like a man trying to explain a hurricane. Every entity that's moved against us in the last 24 hours has one thing in common, he said. He drew a name in the center of the board. Never heard of them, Nathaniel said. Neither had I. Neither had anyone on this team. They don't advertise. They don't have a public CEO. Their corporate filings are minimal, technically compliant, and completely uninformative. Brian tapped the board. But they're everywhere. He started drawing lines. Vertex Supply's parent company. Silent Investor. Meridian Cross. Crestmont's largest LP. Routed through a Luxembourg trust. Meridian Cross. The Singapore terminal seller. Funded through a real estate vehicle that traced back through 4 shell companies. Meridian Cross. This is a ghost company, Nathaniel said. It's the most powerful ghost company I've ever seen. Brian set down his marker. They don't build in front of you. They build underneath you. By the time you see them, you're already standing on their foundation. Arthur leaned forward. How much are they worth? I can't get a clear number. Every time I find a subsidiary and value it, there are 3 more underneath. But conservatively, Brian shook his head. We're not talking millions. We're not talking billions. The room waited. This is generational money. Old money. The kind that doesn't show up on any list because they own the infrastructure the lists are printed on. Nathaniel stared at the web of lines on the whiteboard. One name at the center. Everything connected to everything else. Someone called them, he said. Someone with the authority to make all of this move in one day. The room was very quiet. Find out who runs Meridian Cross, Nathaniel said. I don't care what it costs. Before we continue, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story has traveled. Stay until the end. You won't want to miss what happens next. Raymond, Nathaniel's head of security, was ex-military and did not scare easily. When he called at 7 p.m., he sounded scared. Mr. Holt, I've been running the Meridian Cross inquiry like you asked. I hit walls everywhere. Government-level walls. He paused. So I changed the search. To what? To Clara. Nathaniel went still. My ex-wife. Your ex-wife. Raymond's voice was careful. Sir, I went back through her pre-marriage records. Standard background protocol. Employment history, education, family registry. And there's nothing. Before the charity gala 5 years ago, Clara doesn't exist in any accessible database. No employment records. No lease agreements. No college transcripts. No tax filings. No social media history older than 6 years. Nothing. That's impossible. Everyone has a, I know, which means one of two things. Either she's been living completely off the grid her entire adult life, which no one does, or someone with resources and government access has scrubbed her history clean. Raymond let that settle. The kind of scrubbing that costs a great deal of money and requires friends in very specific places. Nathaniel didn't speak. I kept digging. I found a sealed corporate filing from 11 years ago, a trust establishment document. The trust is called the Wren Family Trust. Raymond paused. The assets listed at founding were, how much? A long pause. $17 billion, Mr. Holt. At founding. 11 years ago. The blood drained from Nathaniel's face. The registered trustee at the time was a Gerard Wren. Raymond's voice dropped. Sir, Gerard Wren is the man they call the architect. He's been the invisible force behind 3 of the largest infrastructure acquisitions in modern history. Nobody photographs him. Nobody interviews him. He's been called a myth by people who very much should know better. Nathaniel pressed his hand to the glass wall of his office, steadying himself. Raymond, he said slowly, is Meridian Cross Holdings connected to the Wren Family Trust? Yes, sir. Is Clara a Wren? The silence lasted 4 seconds. She's his daughter, Mr. Holt. His only child. Nathaniel looked out at the city below him. San Francisco glittering in the dark. His city, his empire. Built, he was beginning to understand, on borrowed ground. She never told me, he said. No, sir. She spent 5 years in my house and never said a word. No, sir. Nathaniel closed his eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. Give me everything you can on Gerard Wren. Everything. The Global Commerce Forum was held at the Fairmont Grand in San Francisco. Every major player attended. Venture capital, tech infrastructure, finance. The kind of room where one handshake could move a market. Nathaniel arrived because he had no choice. Absence meant surrender. He still had enough status to walk through the door, and he needed allies. He needed someone willing to stand with him against whatever Meridian Cross was building. He found no one. Old colleagues refreshed their drinks when they saw him coming. Partners he'd done business with for a decade suddenly had urgent calls to take. The social death was visible and unanimous. He found a seat in the main auditorium as the lights dimmed. The stage was enormous. The screen behind the podium displayed the Forum logo alongside another emblem he'd never seen before. A clean geometric design. An eagle's wing folded over a globe. Meridian Cross Holdings. They were the primary sponsor. The voice over the speakers was warm, unhurried. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged this evening to introduce the keynote speaker for the Global Commerce Forum, the founder and principal director of Meridian Cross Holdings. The auditorium murmured. Nobody knew who ran Meridian Cross. The stage lights lifted. Clara walked out. Nathaniel stopped breathing. She wore a charcoal suit tailored to mathematical perfection. Her hair was swept back. A single strand of pearls at her throat. But it wasn't the clothes. It wasn't the styling. It was the way she moved. She owned the floor before she reached the podium. The crowd felt it the way crowds feel weather. People leaned forward without knowing why. Conversations stopped without a signal. This was not the woman who had sat silently at his dinner parties. This was not the woman he had handed $10. Whispers moved through the auditorium like a current. That's her, the Wren heir. I thought she was a myth. I heard she controls more port access than most sovereign nations. Clara reached the podium. She waited. The room fell completely silent. My name is Clara Wren, she said. Her voice was clear and unhurried and filled every corner of the room without effort. And I'd like to talk to you tonight about the nature of real power. She didn't look at her notes. She didn't need to. Most of the people in this room have built their reputations on visibility, Clara said. Your names are on buildings. Your faces are in magazines. You've confused being seen with being powerful. She paused. They are not the same thing. The screen behind her lit up. A global map. Lines connecting ports, rail networks, data centers, distribution hubs across 6 continents. Meridian Cross Holdings manages 41% of all deep-water port operations in the Pacific Rim. We control rare earth supply chains across 4 continents. We own the logistics infrastructure that moves 63% of all manufactured technology goods from production to market. Clara let the numbers land. We don't compete with companies like Holt Industries. Nathaniel felt the air leave his body. We're the ground they build on. And when we choose to withdraw that ground, she gestured to the screen behind her, which shifted to a stock chart. A single brutal line. A cliff. The results speak for themselves. The auditorium stirred. Heads turned. Found Nathaniel. Look back at Clara. She clicked to the next slide. Meridian Cross is launching a new initiative. The WREN Global Access Program. An integrated partnership network offering shared infrastructure to companies that meet our standards. She let pause settle. Standards of ethics. Standards of leadership. Standards of how you treat the people who enable your success. She looked at the audience. Then she looked directly at Nathaniel. Their eyes met across the length of the auditorium. Her voice did not waver. Some of the people in this room believe they built their empires alone, she said. They looked at the people around them and decided those people had nothing to offer, that their silence meant insignificance, that their patience meant weakness. She tilted her head slightly. That they were worth exactly $10. Someone in the audience gasped. Nathaniel sat perfectly still. Those people were wrong, Clara said simply. And now they know it. She moved on without another glance in his direction. One by one, her new partners took the stage. Liang Pacific Capital, Crestmont, the Singapore Terminal Group. Every name that had abandoned Nathaniel in the last 48 hours, now standing beside Clara, announcing commitments that would reshape entire industries. The room gave her a standing ovation. Nathaniel didn't stand. He couldn't move. Victoria found him in the lobby. She'd been at the forum with her own contacts, working a room that used to open for her because she was with Nathaniel Holt. Now she found him on a lobby bench, jacket loose, staring at nothing. She sat beside him. Not close. She planned all of it, Nathaniel said. Yes, from before the divorce. Maybe before that. It looks that way. He turned to her. We get through this together. I still have assets. The building. Some holdings that haven't been touched. We rebuild. He looked at her. You and me. Victoria was quiet for a moment. She reached in her bag and pulled out her phone. She showed him a message. A recruiting firm. A senior communications director position. The name of the hiring company was a Meridian Cross subsidiary. They reached out to me this afternoon, she said. During the keynote, Nathaniel stared at the message. She's offering you a job. She's offering me a future. Victoria's voice wasn't cruel. It was honest. Nathaniel, I'm not built for ruins. I never said I was. She stood. I'm sorry. Her heels clicked across the marble lobby floor and out through the glass doors. He sat alone in the lobby of a building that no longer cared who he was. His phone rang. An escort from Meridian Cross, 2 men in dark suits who led him through service corridors to a private meeting room on the 4th floor. Clara was standing by the window. She didn't turn when he entered. The room was quiet. What? Nathaniel said. His voice cracked on the word. She turned then. Up close, she looked tired. Not defeated, just tired in the way that people get when they've been patient for a very long time. Because you handed me $10, she said. And you meant it. Clara, you meant it. She crossed her arms. Not the amount. The gesture. You looked at 5 years of someone's life and assigned it a value you'd leave on a table without a second thought. Her voice was steady, not angry, something colder than angry. Do you know what I was doing during those 5 years, Nathaniel? He said nothing. Your deal with the Nakamura Group almost collapsed in year 2. Their operations director was feeding proprietary information to a competitor. I had it stopped before you ever knew there was a problem. She moved to the window. Your Midwest distribution chain. 3 of those regional managers were skimming freight costs. I had them replaced through a third-party audit firm. You thought the efficiency improved on its own. Nathaniel felt the floor shifting beneath him. Your entire Singapore acquisition strategy was built on market research compiled by an analytics firm. That firm is mine, has been mine for 8 years. She looked at him. You weren't building an empire, Nathaniel. You were decorating a house I already owned. You could have told me. I tried. Her voice softened for one moment. I tried every way I knew how to be a real partner to you, to offer something beyond sitting quietly at your dinner table. You never asked. You never wanted to know. I was furniture to you, and furniture doesn't have useful opinions. She exhaled. So I stopped telling you. Then why didn't you stop me? When I filed for divorce, why didn't you just explain? Because you looked at me and decided I was worth $10. Clara met his eyes. I have more self-respect than to argue with a man about my own value. Nathaniel pressed his hands together. I didn't destroy you, Clara said. I want you to understand that. I didn't do anything to you. I removed my foundation and let you stand on your own. She looked at him steadily. This is what you built, Nathaniel. Without me, this is the empire that was actually yours. The word landed like a stone dropped from a great height. Nothing. What happens now, he said. That depends entirely on you. She picked up her jacket from the chair. You can fight the asset transfers in court. You'll lose eventually, but you'll lose slowly and expensively. Or you can accept what's true. She moved toward the door. And then you could decide what kind of man you actually want to be. She paused at the threshold. For what it's worth, Clara said quietly, I didn't do this because I hate you. I did it because I had to respect myself enough to stop doing it for you. She looked back once. Some foundations can't be rebuilt, Nathaniel, but the man standing on them can be. The door closed. The bankruptcy filing made every major financial network within 6 hours. Nathaniel watched from a hotel room he couldn't afford, on a channel he'd once been interviewed on, as anchors delivered the autopsy of his empire with professional sympathy. In what analysts are calling the most precisely executed corporate withdrawal in recent history, Holt Industries has filed for Chapter 11 protection. The collapse follows the revelation that Nathaniel Holt's ex-wife is Clara Wren, sole heir to the Wren family fortune, currently estimated at. He turned off the television. His phone showed 43 unread messages. He read only one. His mother. Nathaniel, I saw the news. Come home. We need to talk. He drove to Sacramento. His father opened the door, took one look at him, and stepped aside without a word. No lecture. No told you so. Just the quiet dignity of a man making room for his son's disaster. His mother made coffee. Set it in front of him. Sat down. I met Clara twice, she said. Once at the engagement party. Once at your 3rd anniversary dinner. She wrapped her hands around her mug. Both times, I watched her spend 40 minutes talking to your Aunt Gloria, who nobody else would give 10 minutes to. She listened to her like she was the most interesting person in the room. Nathaniel stared at the coffee. You threw that away, his mother said. And now you know the cost. I know. Do you? She looked at him the way only mothers can, the look that sees all of it and loves you anyway. Because I need you to understand something. This isn't about the money. The money is just a number. The real loss is that you had someone who chose you, Nathaniel. Chose you specifically. She could have been anywhere. She had more resources than most governments. And she picked a quiet life with you. His mother's voice didn't waver. And you handed her $10. He didn't sleep that night. He lay in his childhood bedroom and stared at the ceiling and thought about every quiet moment he dismissed. Every time Clara had offered an opinion he hadn't heard. Every dinner party where he'd introduced her as my wife the way you might say my car or my office. He'd had 5 years of someone extraordinary pretending to be ordinary, because ordinary was what she wanted and he hadn't valued it for a single day. 3 months later, Nathaniel took a position at a mid-sized operations consultancy in Sacramento. $42,000 a year. His own desk. A cubicle neighbor named Phil who talked about fantasy football. He went by Inholt. No one recognized him. He worked. He listened. He helped a family-owned manufacturing company restructure their shipping costs and stay solvent. He watched the owner cry with relief and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Useful. Not powerful. Not envied. Useful. He wrote Clara a letter on paper because email felt like a press release and she deserved more than that. Dear Clara, I have no right to send this. You're welcome to have your legal team intercept it. But I needed to say something I should have said 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, or any morning of our marriage when you left coffee on the counter with a note I never read. I was wrong. Not about the divorce specifically, though I was wrong about that too. I was wrong about who you were. I decided you were uncomplicated because it was convenient. I decided your silence was emptiness instead of restraint. I decided you were lucky to have me, and I was so committed to that story that I never looked up long enough to see you. You built something extraordinary. You built it quietly, and you built it with integrity, and then you had the grace to let me fail on my own terms rather than fight back the way I deserved. I'm not asking for anything. I know some things can't be recovered once they're given away. I just needed you to know that I finally see it. The real loss wasn't the company. The real loss was you. I hope you're well. 6 weeks later, a package arrived at his parents' house. No return address. His name and handwriting he recognized immediately. Inside was a single index card. I read it. I believe you. Forgiveness isn't the same as return. But for what it's worth, I forgive you. Find someone who sees you and love them better than you love me. See, Nathaniel held the card for a long time. Then he put it in his desk drawer next to a $10 bill he'd kept as a reminder. The $10 he'd set on a table like a verdict. The $10 that had started everything. He looked at it every morning before he went to work. Not as punishment, as instruction. The man who had handed it across a restaurant table was gone. The man who remained was quieter, more careful, more awake to the value of things that didn't announce themselves. Some empires are built in glass towers with your name on the door. Some are built in silence, underneath everything else, invisible until the moment they choose to move. Nathaniel had lived in the first kind and never noticed the second kind holding it upright. He wouldn't make that mistake again. The most dangerous power is the kind you never knew was there. And the most costly lesson is the one that costs you everything before you learn it.